The Fuji X100V, the coolest camera you can't find. Here's why, right after this. Thanks for joining me in the coastal redwoods of Northern California on our family vacation, where I have only brought this camera for taking pictures. Obviously I have this camera to record me, but this one is doing all the legwork when it comes to taking family photos of our trip. When this first came out, it wasn't really a popular camera except for with other Fuji shooters, which I had never shot a Fuji camera. I was lucky enough to have purchased this camera off of Facebook Marketplace shortly after it came out, and I snagged it up for $1,200 in 2020. But let me tell you, there is something very, very special about this Fuji camera in particular. So what's the big deal? Why is this camera so popular? It's popular because to this day, this makes the best digital representation of film stock ever made. And the fact that it does it all in camera is a really big deal. And I know what you're thinking when you hear that someone has a good digital representation of a filmic look. It's never good. I know, it's never good. Except it is now. It's good. And that's why it's so popular. It's good. It's great. There's something about the way that this camera renders highlights and highlight roll-off specifically that makes it more filmic. And I think that might be the secret sauce to getting this to look more like a film image. You don't have to process your images in Lightroom anymore. You're just using the JPEG straight out of camera, using the wireless connection to connect to the app, transferring the photos from the camera to your phone, and then uploading them from there. I can use whatever recipe that I want. Maybe you've never heard of a recipe. A recipe is unique to the Fuji family in that it's a series of settings that you change in camera and then you save as a user preset. You can save several user presets, so essentially I can shoot with several different kinds of film if that's the look you're going after. In fact, they have an app, Fuji Weekly, where you can get on and see hundreds of different recipes made by all sorts of different photographers around the world. Find one that you like, pick out the settings, input them into the camera, off you go. You can save up to 6 different recipes in here, so essentially I could have 6 different rolls of film if that's what you're going for. The 7th one is actually saved for video, so you can also apply recipes to video, but more on that later. I think one of the other things contributing to the popularity of this camera is because you're not going in and editing your photos afterwards. When you clap that shutter, that should be the image that you're after. You need to adjust your exposure, your shutter speed, use the ND filter if you want to, if that's your thing. It's got one, you could. It really puts you in the moment more than just like firing a bunch of random shots and then sifting through the garbage later. It really makes you focus on like, okay, I like the way the light hits that there. I'm gonna go ahead and adjust my exposure. I'm gonna adjust my aperture. Is my horizon straight? Because you got one shot, it's going straight to Instagram from here. But it really puts you in the moment as a photographer and kind of connects you to the scene that you're in a way that you don't get from just spraying and praying with other cameras. That, to me, is really why this is popular. So it's not all baked in. Okay, it does create a raw file for you as well, alongside of that JPEG, that sweet filmic JPEG that you're after. So if you wanted to go into Lightroom and mess around with that raw file, you definitely could, but you'd be missing the point completely. It's nice to have options. So here's the thing, it's not a full frame camera. It's APS-C type sensor. It's 26.1 megapixels, which I find is plenty, especially because I find myself dirtying up the image instead of trying to make it crispy and sharp. I'm actually kind of adding a lot of grain and things like that. So yeah, as far as megapixels, unless you want to crop in on something, but again, it's a fixed lens, okay? This lens is actually a 23mm Fujinon lens. I believe it has an 8-piece optic, if that matters to you. Doesn't matter to me. All that matters is that it looks great, which it does. You can go all the way down to f2. However you want to frame the picture, you're just gonna have to keep in mind that you're gonna use your feet because you're not gonna be adjusting it. Now they do make like wide angles and different filters and stuff, but to me, you start carrying around different types of lenses and fittings and stuff like that, it's just more stuff to carry, it's more to worry about breaking or losing, and it takes away from the fun of just pulling this out of your pocket and snapping a picture. You don't have to worry about, this is what you get. If you don't like what's in the viewfinder, you're gonna have to walk forward or backward. It has an optical viewfinder, by the way, and you can switch it to the digital viewfinder so you can see in real time what your recipe is going to look like when you're applying it to that scene. That's a really cool bonus for me. It's like having your picture developed before you actually take the picture. You can just look in there and you can see, oh yeah, that's a great recipe for this. I'm gonna use it, or whatever, you know, it's already there. The digital viewfinder is great. You can adjust how it looks in here if you've got wonky eyes or you wear glasses. Don't worry, it's gonna work for you. There's this whole trend going around right now using the onboard flash. there's a vibe. You know the vibe. Anyway, it does it really good. There's some film simulations, some recipes out there that do that really well with the onboard flash. It also has a built-in ND filter, so you can do long exposures of like maybe the water behind me. You can get that like silky, glassy look. I actually use it more for filming because this actually, it shoots really good 4K video as well. I love, love, love the video that comes out of this camera. The slow-mo is buttery smooth out of this. Even though it's in 1080, it still looks really, really good. You can apply a recipe to the video as well. It only gives you one user spot to do that though, so make sure it's a recipe that you like. And if you're using it, it will be baked into your footage. It does not give you like a log file separate. When you're shooting video in log, the log that comes out of this camera is one of the easiest to color grade that I've ever used. And it renders skin tones even better than my Canon, which is saying a lot because I think Canon does an exceptional job at rendering skin tones. But the Fuji, there's something about the log footage that comes out of this camera that is just super pleasing to the eye. That being said, when you use this for video, it goes through some batteries, and I mean it goes through them quickly. And I have had a couple of overheating warnings, especially when shooting that 120 slow-mo, and that will really drain your battery, by the way. Battery life when you're just taking pictures lasts me all day and a half, easy. I can take 1,000 pictures. I don't know what it's actually rated for, but I take a lot of pictures and battery works great. But the second you switch over to that video, it's gonna drain your battery, and I mean very, very quickly. One other thing about the batteries that I will mention is Fuji did this brilliant, brilliant thing. You see how the orange tab, the release tab, lines up with the orange dot? When I go to put that battery in, orange lines up with orange, boom, it's done. No fussing around trying to. The other thing about shooting video is there is no IBIS. It is not a stabilized image. So if you're locked off on a tripod somewhere, that's good, that's great. If not, try to move like you are a gimbal and your footage will come out pretty good. It's a little shaky, but if you've got a really cool film recipe on top of that, the shakiness kind of works with it. It kind of gives it that vibe. Going back to video, you do have that built-in ND filter. It is 4 stops, by the way. So if you're in a bright situation like I currently am, well, it's bright and then it's dark and then it's bright and then it's dark. You got a built-in ND filter right there. It's never gonna get scratched because it's internal. It is behind that. And your lens should never actually get scratched because you've got this little lens protector deal. And this, by the way, is what helps weatherproof your camera. So when this is on, you are weather resistant. When it's off, you are not. So I always keep mine on. If you really, really want to get that film look, I highly recommend getting like a pro mist filter or a black mist or something to go in front of this. I am cheap. And so what I did, I didn't have hairspray. I've heard that worked. I didn't have any, but the wife had some dry shampoo. I sprayed it in the air and caught it on the inside like that a couple times. Thing is money. It's one of the best mods that I've ever done. It just, I don't know if you can see it, but I'll do a close-up on it. It works great. The thing really is built like a tank though. It doesn't require much maintenance. Everything is right where you need it, and it's just so aesthetically pleasing. I mean, if you look at this camera, you know it's going after that film retro vibe. Everywhere I go, I just keep it out like this, and people look at it, they're like, ooh. I'm like, yep, I got one. Where's yours? I dropped this on the first day that we came here. I was like, oh, I'm gonna do a video. I've had the thing for a little while now, and it deserves a video. It's gaining popularity. Usually you're waiting for the next generation of camera to come out, but this one just keeps getting more popular, more sought after. So I was like, you know, I'm gonna do a video on it. And then I got here and I dropped it from about 4 foot up, from about this high, bam, landed on the corner there. Got a couple dings in there. It wasn't the first time I've dropped it. The back of the camera is tucked away nicely, so you're really not worried about, you know, the screen getting damaged if you drop it. It tends to land on a corner, like that right there. That was my fault. Final verdict, I give this like a 9 out of 10. If I had to give it a rating, 0 to 10, 10 being the best, 0 being the worst, I give it a 9. It's a great camera. It goes everywhere with me. I'm gonna leave you now with some images from our trip. All the images that you're about to see were shot with this camera using the recipe Eddie's Point and Shoot, which I found on a Facebook group. Eddie, good job. I love the simulation. So all of these images from this trip are using that sim, and it matches up so nicely in the Instagram. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe. A lot of you watch the videos and you're not subscribed. It really helps me out, and just do it, okay? Come on, do it. Come on. Thanks for watching.